If you have a product though that nobody knows about, like it's pretty brand new or it has an innovation to it or whatever it is, being too vague is going to make people skeptical of your claims. We are going to talk about specificity in advertising and specificity in just marketing in general. This one in particular had a lot of really cool science around it. So we are going to dive in. So very first research study that I found was this one, vagueness as an implicit encoding persuasive strategy and experimental approach. Now, all of these studies are going to have these type of names. If you haven't been down the rabbit hole of studies, I apologize. I'm going to summarize this for you. So this first one is really interesting because this one was published in 2024 and basically says that when you read something vague, your brain doesn't really stop to evaluate it. It just kind of lets it slide through. So vagueness in an ad or in copy or in messaging gets processed really slowly because the brain has to try and go through and find examples of what it thinks you mean. In general, this is not a bug in the brain system. This is actually a feature, right? So the brain really wants to look at stuff that it's going to believe and remember because that's how we stay alive. So this is the first thing I want you to remember about this particular training today. Vagueness. If you're too wide with your copy or with your messaging, the brain's going to process it really shallowly. It's not going to keep it in there for very long. Second one that I found here, this is a really interesting article. If you guys ever want to go look at the legal world, does everybody know what puffery is? I did not know this term. Puffery apparently is an actual legal term, comes from advertising law that basically states that if you want to call yourself the best in the world, that's protected legally. You can actually do that and you're not going to get sued, at least not in the US, mostly because everybody could say that and nobody's expected to take that literally. So you could say, we are the best in the world at shoes, or we're the best in the world at Nerf gun games. You can actually say that, and that's something you could claim. Now, the interesting part is, though, and this is what I want you to take away from this particular study, specific numbers really do create a lot of legal liability. So if you are going to get specific, if you want to say something like this reduces, pain by 30%, or it increases skin health by 90%, or whatever it is, it has to be able to get backed up. You got to have something that will be able to back up that claim. Otherwise, you run into legal issues. So this is the reason why specificity is super important for advertising, because specific numbers in particular create this kind of legal liability. And when you say that to people, they assume that you must have done the work to be able to say that legally. So they believe you more. So if we're going to create good ads, very first thing we need to remember is if you're too vague, the brain is going to just keep a little bit of that information. It's not going to process it deeply. Second thing is if you're specific in your ads, people are going to assume that you must have done the work legally to be able to say that. So they'll believe you more. Last one that I found in here was in the National Library of Medicine, Asymmetrical Force of Persuasive Knowledge Across Positive and Negative Divide. Again, I'll explain this one to you. I don't know why they have to use such ridiculous words and terms on this. This one in particular, though, found that delusion or low strength claims in advertising raised people's awareness that they were being marketed to. The more vague you are, the more skeptical people are going to be, which I was fascinating. So in general, if you have an audience that already distrusts you, it's going to create a lot of this well, I don't think I should believe them because it just doesn't really sound like this is true. In general, for this particular study, if your audience has a pretty wide knowledge of the industry and of the product, I think it's okay to be a little vague just because they assume that this industry has done enough work to be able to say whatever they're trying to say. If you have a product though that nobody knows about, it's pretty brand new or it has an innovation to it or whatever it is, being too vague is going to make people skeptical of your claims.
So basically you're saying there's no situation where being broad is good.
I don't believe so, no.
Well, you're going to have to find meta with it.
I know.
Yeah, it's a hard one.
Broad targeting is good. Broad messaging is not. That's the distinction that I'd like to make. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I will still point out to the facts. There are multiple ads I can show you right now that have very broad and non-specific. You know what? Some of them are specific, but some are broad messaging that just work.
My question is, which category are they in?
I'm sorry, but the two ones that I think about, one is in health and wellness, and one is in toys. Kids toys.
Yeah, I think the category psychology is critical, and you and I are going to have to just talk about this because I'm just I truly believe, just from the studies that I'm reading, more specificity creates more believability and people are more likely to buy. The broad language, though, in those two categories makes a whole lot of sense just because people know what the toy is. And they probably also, depending on the health product, it's probably also a pretty common health product. So they don't need as much convincing, if that makes sense. Now, we're almost, okay. Ooh, that's a good point. My brain just made a good point. We're almost talking about two different things. The difference between persuasion and specificity. Persuasion and specificity are two totally different things.
So I'm testing a combination product, like a hair serum and a hair supplement together.
Okay.
I've heard in the past that selling a single product SKU is better than selling two different in the same, I guess, landing page or message. Is that your experience? Because I'm going to test the bundle and then two individuals separately as well in the next week to two. To kind of get a direction of where to go. So is there one that you prefer just off the bat?
Are these two products being sold individually already?
Yeah, they're on our website. So the bundle
They're
will
just
just give you
PDPs.
better results. Yeah, so there's 3 different PDPs. It's just
So
that I have to
which-
explain more and I have to get them to buy into the combination behavior, which might be a differentiator in a good way.
Yeah.
But it's more to explain.
Well, we've talked about this a few times. There's like a few different studies that they have a positive outlook on systems, right? And I think we've talked about this quite a lot around ads, but not so much about like landers and offers. I prefer to have a system for things just because it's proprietary and it comes across as more specific, right? If I have a hair serum and I have a supplement and they go together, then it looks like the brand made a conscious decision to build me something that will work better together. So I have a gut feeling that bundle is going to sell pretty well. Okay, to wrap up what we're doing with the Don. Luxury people want to feel special elite, not special personalized. Special personalized is a little bit different experience. When it's personalized, we ask a lot of questions about you, right? What's your favorite? What's your like this? What's your color? What's your whatever? When it's elite, we ask a lot of questions about what you don't want, if that makes sense. Who's not in your group? Are you a Maserati guy or are you a Lamborghini guy? And most of the time they'll be like, I don't adhere at all to one or the other. So the experience you create has to be very well tailored to what that person wants to hear about themselves, if that makes sense. I have a couple example ads of specificity. I did not pull any from modern day stuff just because sometimes that's boring and I like to look at historical ads. So if you guys want to, we'll go through a couple of these. We'll have a few minutes left here just so that you can see kind of how they used to do it and mostly from a copy standpoint, just because copy is everything in advertising. It's all UGC is created from. It's all headlines are created from. All of this stuff is just copy. So this one ran from Porsche in the 1950s. This was 1956 in particular. This is really interesting because their copy is talking about features, right? So we've got new wraparound windshield, new racing type bucket seats, new transmission mounting. I don't know what any of this means. New body styling. This is pretty specific, I would say, to one type of person who has a lot of knowledge around this. And then they've got all the details you could buy. I think this ad doesn't hold a freaking candle to this one, though, because this is hyper specific. This was one of the best ads that was run for this particular company. I need to pull up my notes here because like what they were able to do from this is crazy.
Yeah.
So this is
right?
Yeah, this was one of the first, I think, that he ran for these guys. Where's my notes here? And this one, I see your hand. Hang on just a second. Where did this go? 50% sales increase in 1958 from this one ad. Their ad spend on this was $25,000. I was like, that's it? Like, I mean, that's a lot in the 1950s, but increase of 50% in sales from an ad that was like this much ad spend. I'm like, dang. Question, yes.
I want to see the ROAS number. Holy hell.
I know. I was like, oh, this is crazy. So the reason why this worked, obviously, is because it didn't talk about the same thing that Porsche did. Porsche was like, racing type bucket seats, transmission mounting, new body styling. It's very vague. It's like, what does new body styling mean exactly? I know what a bucket seat is, but wrap around windshield. How is that different from a normal windshield? Don't all windshields wrap around? Maybe I'm wrong. This guy, though, very clear. He's talking about specifically how quiet the car is, but he didn't just say this car is quiet, give you a very specific when that you would be experiencing this. And I love this one. Question, go ahead.
Do you think that the last ad performed better for that small audience, the more niche audience, to actually understand what everything means?
It probably would for a very small segment of the audience, yes. But these were ran in magazines. So they're trying to reach a pretty top of funnel, like wide audience. That's kind of the reason why I pulled these two, because I was like, if we can make an assumption that both of these were run in either a newspaper or a magazine, a lot of cold traffic is going to be seeing this. I'd probably choose this, right? Because yeah, you're right. Somebody's going to resonate with this and buy, but in particular, it's probably not a very large somebody.
Yeah. So in the age of Facebook ads, do you think it's actually flipped?
You mean like run the Porsche ad in Facebook ads?
Yes.
I wouldn't in particular right now, just because everybody's struggling with top of funnel. You can run this at any time and you'll get conversions, but eventually this will fatigue, right? So these are the ones that sit at the bottom of the funnel that people are just like, I can't tell why it's working. Well, it's mostly because this is running to one specific person, and that group is very small. So yeah, I'd rather run this, especially if you're not doing organic. The different, like if you're running organic strategy and you're doing volume on organic, you probably don't need to do a lot of this in the ad account, because you're going to be picking up a lot of people out there and bringing them into the ad account over time. So this was back in the 80s. And these obviously Burger King, McDonald's, both of them saying basically the exact same thing, just like, do you want to eat? And also there's a lot of food. That was the entirety of the 80s, was all these people were saying. I love 80s ads. I can't get enough of these. So because these two were basically the incumbents right there, the biggest brands that were in this particular time period, and Wendy's was the underdog to these guys, they made an ad that we might actually watch if we have a second. We might have time to watch this. I don't know if you guys, many of you probably are not old enough to remember this ad, but this one in particular caused our revenue to jump 31% the year that they ran this ad for Wendy's. Because again, it said something that was already happening in the industry, but nobody would just say it out loud. That's why I'm like, everybody go this week and try and find something that's just obvious in your industry that nobody is saying, because it does really amazing things to brands if you can find that thing. So let me pull up this ad, because I guarantee you there's something inside your industry that people think is just obvious and that customers must already know this, but they don't. Like, customers don't know the industries nearly as well as we do, because we study them all day long. This one is what caused a giant uproar. So let me make sure. Okay, sound. Yes, here we go.
It certainly is a big bun.
It's a very big bun.
Big fluffy bun.
It's a very big fluffy bun.
Where's the beef?
Some hamburger places give you a lot less beef on a lot of bun.
Where's the beef?
At Wendy's, we serve a hamburger we modestly call a single. And Wendy's single has more beef than the Whopper or Big Mac. At Wendy's, you get more beef and less bun.
Hey, where's the beef? I don't think there's anybody back there.
You want something better. You're Wendy's kind of people.
Oh my God. Okay, I laughed at this for way too long.
Nice.
Where's the beef? 1980s. Now, this was interesting. This one in particular, super fascinating. They actually got into a lot of trouble for this ad, because the response from the brands who came in and took a look at this was they actually weighed their cheeseburgers next to Wendy's cheeseburgers and found that Wendy's didn't actually have more meat on their cheeseburgers. But the interesting part was the consumer base did not care. So the consumers kept buying Wendy's cheeseburgers because they heard it first. So this is why I'm like, specificity is like crazy powerful for advertising, because if you can say it first, especially if you can back it up, obviously, it's one of the most powerful ways to rise up and become category leader, just because you were the first one to say something obvious.
What you just saw is a conversation between myself, an 8-figure founder, a media buyer, and a creative strategist, while we worked to kind of uncover some of the creative challenges that they are facing. And we do live calls like this every single week inside the Tether Lab, which is my school community. Once you join, you're going to get access to all of my trainings. You're going to get the knowledge behind 6 years and 150 plus brand consultations that I've done. And you're also going to get one-on-one support from me. So if you want to go learn more, you can go to school.com/tether-lab, or you can click the link in the description.